Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into the science of what it means to live a good life. We're talking about a field called positive psychology, and it's all about what it takes not just to survive, but to really truly thrive.
For most of its history, psychology was pretty much focused on one thing: fixing what's broken. It looked at mental illness, trauma, all the human weaknesses. The main goal was to get someone from a state of suffering, let's call it a -8, back up to a neutral 0. But then, positive psychology came along and just flipped the entire script. It started asking a totally different and frankly, a much more interesting question. What is right with people? The new goal? Well, it wasn't just about getting to 0. It was about figuring out how to get someone from a pretty good place, say a +2, all the way up to a flourishing +8.
And this was a huge realization. The field finally understood that just because you get rid of sadness or anxiety, it doesn't mean you automatically get joy, right? Being free of problems isn't the same thing as being filled with purpose and meaning. It was like, wow, there is this whole other, much brighter side of the human experience that science hasn't even really started to explore.
In 1998, that shift really kicked into high gear. A psychologist named Martin Seligman, who was the president of the American Psychological Association at the time, really championed this new direction, positive psychology. And look at the key words here: scientific, steady, and thrive. This was never about just, feel-good platitudes. It was about rigorously, scientifically studying the very real, measurable factors that allow people, and even whole communities, to genuinely flourish. So, the mission was set. Let's build a real science around one of life's biggest questions. What actually makes up a good life? What are the real ingredients for a life that's truly well-lived?
Well, here's where it gets fascinating. As it turns out, the answer to that question changes a lot, depending on where you are in the world. The very definition of well-being isn't universal. Culture plays this massive role in shaping what we value and what we think it means to live well.
Just look at this incredible contrast. In a lot of Western individualistic cultures, the good life is often about self-enhancement, personal achievement, chasing pleasure. It's about mastering your environment to get what you want. But in many Eastern, more collectivist traditions, the whole focus shifts to self-transcendence. That's going beyond your own needs for the good of the group. It's about harmony, contentment, and living a life of virtue. And check out the view on hardship. One side says, let's avoid suffering, while the other says, no, let's embrace it, because that's where we grow. Totally different perspectives.
Okay, so with all these deep cultural differences, how on earth do you build a universal science of well-being? Well, researchers went on this amazing historical deep dive. They looked at philosophical texts, religious traditions, going back thousands of years, trying to find a common blueprint of human strengths that pretty much everyone, everywhere, values. And you know what they found? Despite all our differences, these 6 core virtues are prized in just about every culture throughout history. They're like a shared moral compass for all of humanity, the very foundations of what we consider to be good character. You can think of them as the 6 big families of human strength.
Let's just zoom in on courage for a second. It is so much more than just physical bravery. It's that quiet persistence to finish a really hard project when everything in you wants to quit. It's the integrity to speak up for what's right, even if your voice is shaking. And it's that vitality, that spark to approach life with energy and zest.
Or how about transcendence? This is the virtue that connects us to something bigger than ourselves, which, let's be honest, is where we so often find our deepest sense of meaning. And sure, it can be found in spirituality, absolutely, but it's also in that feeling of awe when you see an amazing sunset, or the simple gratitude for a small kindness. It's the hope that keeps you pushing forward, or the humor that connects us and helps us get through the tough times.
But look, positive psychology isn't just about the good times. It's not all sunshine and rainbows. In fact, it offers this really powerful and, I think, pretty surprising new way to look at how we deal with life's absolute toughest challenges.
We hear the word resilience thrown around all the time, and for good reason. It's that incredible, uniquely human capacity to bounce back from hardship and trauma. It's the very definition of adapting well when you're faced with serious life-altering stress.
But get ready for this, because this is a truly stunning statistic. After a traumatic event, only about 5 to 35% of people end up developing post-traumatic stress disorder, or PTSD, which means the overwhelming majority, somewhere between 65 and 95% of people, do not.
So that just begs the question, right? If most people aren't being permanently broken by trauma, what is happening to them? They don't just disappear. Not only are they surviving, but for a lot of them, something pretty extraordinary is taking place. They are being fundamentally changed for the better.
And this leads us to this remarkable concept called post-traumatic growth. The idea here is that for many people, the intense struggle with a major life crisis doesn't just bring them back to where they were before it happened. It can actually launch them to a higher level of functioning, of wisdom, of appreciation.
They don't just bounce back, they grow beyond.
The crucial point here is that profound struggle can sometimes be the very catalyst for profound strength. It can force you to completely reevaluate your life, your values, your priorities, and in doing so, unlock a level of performance or gratitude that you just couldn't access before the crisis.
And this growth isn't just some vague, fuzzy feeling. It shows up in very specific, very tangible ways. People report a renewed, much deeper appreciation for life itself. They start to see new possibilities for their future that they never even considered. They discover an inner strength they had no idea they possessed. They form more meaningful, deeper relationships, and they often have some kind of profound spiritual or philosophical shift.
And that leaves us with a really fascinating final thought to chew on. If our deepest, most painful struggles can actually spark our greatest growth, what does that say about all the smaller hurdles we face every single day? What kind of untapped potential for strength, for wisdom, and for appreciation is lying dormant inside our ordinary, everyday challenges?